Picture this. Nothing is on fire. Markets are open. ATMs still work. The news says everything is stable. And yet, every government on Earth is acting like the floor might collapse at any moment. That's not paranoia. That's math. Because economic stability doesn't survive on calm. It survives on action. And the uncomfortable truth is this: doing nothing is often the most dangerous move of all. Right now, stability feels boring, almost invisible, until the moment it's gone. And when it disappears, it never announces itself with a countdown. It just stops working. That's why this topic matters right now. Not during a crisis, not after a crash, but in the quiet moments when everything looks fine. Because economic stability is not a natural state. It's an engineered one. And every engineered system needs constant maintenance. Let's start simple. An economy isn't money. It isn't stocks. It isn't even markets. At its core, an economy is a promise system. I work today. You pay me tomorrow. I save that money. I expect it to still matter later. That's it. Everything else, banks, bonds, currencies, governments, exists to keep those promises believable. Stability is just trust stretched across time. Now here's the first uncomfortable part. Trust does not self-sustain. Left alone, it decays. People forget. Circumstances change. Incentives shift. And when trust weakens, people don't panic all at once. They quietly change behavior. They spend a little faster. They save a little less. They demand higher wages. They move money abroad. They avoid long-term plans. None of that looks dramatic. But together, it starts to hollow out the system. That's why economic stability requires action even when nothing is visibly wrong. Because by the time instability is obvious, the repair cost explodes. Think of it like a bridge. If you inspect it daily, maintenance is cheap. If you ignore it for years, one crack becomes a collapse. Now let's talk about what action actually means, because this is where people get confused. Action does not always mean spending more. It does not always mean raising rates. It does not always mean bailouts. Most of the time, action means adjustment. Tiny corrections made early. Interest rates nudged, not slammed. Budgets rebalanced, not gutted. Liquidity added quietly, not dramatically. The goal isn't growth at all costs. The goal is keeping the system predictable. Predictability is the real currency. Businesses don't need perfect conditions. They need knowable ones. Workers don't need guarantees. They need confidence the rules won't change overnight. Investors don't need zero risk. They need risk they can price. Stability lives in that middle zone. Now here's where the irony shows up. The better policymakers do their job, the less visible their work becomes. When stability holds, people accuse leaders of overreacting. When instability hits, people accuse them of doing nothing. There is no applause for preventing disasters that never happen, which creates a dangerous incentive. Delay action to avoid backlash. Wait for clearer signals. Hope the system self-corrects. Sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. And when it fails non-linearly. Slow damage, then sudden rupture. Let's break down how the system actually works, step by step, without jargon. Money flows through the economy like blood. Banks pump it. Markets circulate it. Governments regulate pressure. When money flows smoothly, activity continues. When it pools or freezes, parts of the economy suffocate. During good times, money moves easily. Loans are cheap. Confidence is high. Risk is underestimated. That's when hidden imbalances form. Too much debt. Too much leverage. Too many promises based on best-case assumptions. None of this looks dangerous in isolation. That's the trap. Stability creates the conditions for its own erosion. Now here's the uncomfortable math. Debt grows faster than income during stable periods. Always, because borrowing feels safe when volatility is low. Households borrow. Corporations borrow. Governments borrow. Not recklessly, rationally. Why not borrow when tomorrow looks predictable? But debt doesn't care about moods. It only cares about servicing capacity. The moment growth slows or rates rise, the math flips. What was manageable becomes fragile. This is where action matters most. Because waiting too long forces extreme responses later. Raise rates early, and you cool speculation gently. Wait too long, and you crush demand suddenly. Support liquidity early, and markets stabilize quietly. Wait too long, and you trigger panic interventions. The system doesn't punish mistakes evenly. It punishes hesitation more than imperfection. Now let's contrast hype versus reality. The hype says markets are self-correcting. The hype says price signals solve everything. The hype says intervention always makes things worse. Reality is messier. Markets are great at optimizing for profit. They are terrible at optimizing for stability. No market actor is rewarded for preventing systemic collapse. They're rewarded for outperforming competitors. That creates a coordination problem. Everyone individually acts rationally. Collectively, the system drifts toward fragility. That's why economic stability has always required a referee. Not to control outcomes, but to enforce boundaries. And here's the quiet humor in all of this. The same people who hate intervention during calm periods demand it instantly during crises. Let the market decide, until their savings are involved. No bailouts, until payroll is at risk. Stability requires unpopular moves before popular pain. That's the political paradox. Now zoom out. Why does this matter beyond economics? Because instability doesn't stay financial. It leaks into politics, into social trust, into institutions. When prices feel unpredictable, people lose faith. When jobs feel fragile, extremism grows. When savings feel unsafe, cooperation breaks down. History is very clear on this. Economic instability doesn't create chaos overnight. It erodes legitimacy slowly. People stop believing systems are fair. Then stop believing they work. Then stop believing they're worth protecting. That's when societies fracture. Which is why doing nothing is not neutral. Inaction is a choice. And it usually favors the strongest actors, not the system. Now here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. There is no permanent stability. There is only managed instability. The economy is always drifting, always changing, always accumulating risk somewhere. The question is not whether action distorts the system. It's whether distortion is guided or accidental. Every policy choice shifts pressure. Raise rates, you stress borrowers. Lower rates, you reward leverage. Spend more, you boost demand. Cut spending, you cool inflation. There is no clean option. Only trade-offs. Stability comes from making those trade-offs early, transparently, and incrementally. Not heroically. Not dramatically. Quietly. And that's the final irony. The actions that preserve economic stability rarely feel urgent in the moment. They feel cautious, even boring, until they're skipped. Then suddenly, everything feels urgent at once. So here's the unresolved question to leave you with. If stability requires constant action, and action is always unpopular, and inaction is always tempting, who exactly is incentivized to protect the system before it breaks? Because history suggests the answer is only those willing to act while everyone else thinks nothing is wrong. And that may be the rarest resource in economics of all.